This lesson is going to be looking at part 2 of graphing linear inequalities. This time we're looking at graphing linear inequalities using standard form inequalities. Remember, when we find standard form inequalities, we use the cover-up method. So we use each piece and we set it equal to what the inequality is at the end. So for this first one, I would have 4x equals 8. I would solve that, dividing by 4, and I'd be left with x equals 2. So x in the table is 2. If I covered up the x, I'd be left with 2y is equal to 8. I would divide by 2, and I'd be left with y being equal to 4. I would do the same thing on my other inequality. So I would have 4x equals 8. I would divide by 4, and I'd be left with x being equal to 2. The other one, though, if I cover up the x, I'm left with minus 2y. That means that 2y is negative, so I'd have negative 2y equals 8. I would divide both sides by negative 2, and I'd be left with y being equal to negative 4. So now I should be able to graph both of those lines. So I have my x-intercept for the first one at 2 and my y-intercept at 4. Now it says greater than, so remember that it is a dashed line. It's not greater than or equal to, so that line should be dash. This one, I have my x-intercept at 2 as well, but the difference is my y-intercept is at negative 4. And again, my line is dashed because it's greater than, not greater than or equal to. Now, the key to this is where to shade. Where you shade is determined by the y. If you notice in blue on the screen, it says if y is positive, use the symbol. If y is negative, flip the symbol. So the first equation, y is positive, right? Because it's, or the inequality, because y is positive, it says plus 2y. So that means the symbol that we're given is greater than. So I want to shade where y is greater than that line. Remember, y is greater when y goes up, so I want to shade above that line. The second one, remember, we're dealing with an inequality. So the y value is negative in the first or the second inequality because it's minus 2y. So it's negative 2y. So because it's negative, remember when we solve an inequality, if you were to solve that, you would have had to divide by negative 2. And by dividing by a negative, remember, that switches the inequality symbol to its opposite. So we're still shading in terms of y, but because y is negative, we have to do the opposite of the sign that's given. So the sign that's given in our inequality is greater than, but we're doing the opposite, which is less than. So I want to shade underneath that line because y is less than underneath that line. So I'm shading underneath the line.